The day began like any other. Juno Park tightened her coveralls as she wiped grease from the engine block of a farm truck. Her small workshop at the edge of the rocky pass was quiet, broken only by the hum of distant traffic. She had traded her life among the stars for peace in the highlands, and she liked it that way, until the sky tore open. Orion Ivanov burst through the workshop door, snow-dusted and wild-eyed. "Juno," he gasped, "you need to see this." He pointed to the horizon where a jagged black slash had opened among the clouds. Within its shadow, vast ships drifted like silent predators. "They came without warning," Orion said. "They're burning everything." Juno grabbed her jumpsuit and raced outside. The air trembled with low-frequency pulses that rattled loose rocks. Rafael Cruz, swooping in his russet helicopter, landed in a cloud of dust. His uniform was scorched, face smeared with ash. "Initial strike wiped out half the valley," he said, voice grim. Together, they scrambled toward the nearest village on foot. Smoke choked their lungs as they crested the ridge. Below, the invaders' black metal cruisers hovered above flattened houses. Energy beams carved trenches through farmland. Villagers fled in terror, packing what they could. Juno's heart pounded. "They leave nothing," she whispered. Raphael set down his medic kit. "We can't just watch," he said. "We have to help." They slid down the slope, dodging blasts. Orion led them to an overturned bus battered by debris. Inside, a cluster of terrified survivors huddled. 3 children cried, their parents' arms shaking as they pressed them close. Juno knelt and opened the bus door. "We're here to get you out," she said, voice steadying. They loaded onto Raphael's helicopter, hands trembling but determined. As they lifted off, the invaders fired tracking bolts. Energy arcs hissed past them, searing the earth. Juno guided the copter over jagged cliffs, then down a secret ravine to safety. Orion organized the evacuees, handing out blankets. "We'll get you to the mountain bunker," he said. "It's hidden, supplies are low but it's safe." Back at Juno's workshop, the wounded were treated with crude field dressings. Juno fashioned splints from scrap metal. Raphael radioed other towns, urging resistance. "They're coming," he warned. "We need every hand." In the flickering lantern light, strangers became allies. The retired blacksmith offered tools, the schoolteacher boiled water for tea. Fear still clung to their eyes, but hope flickered too. High above, the alien cruisers pulsed with ominous light. Orion watched through a cracked window. "They're studying us," he said. "They want to break us." Juno wiped sweat and soot from her brow. "Let them try," she muttered. "We'll fight," Raphael nodded. "We can't win this alone," he said. "We need to unite every town, every survivor." Astrid Feng's voice crackled over the radio, tentative but urgent. "I've got something," she said. "A fragment of their tech. Might help seal the breach." Juno's pulse quickened. "Get here," she replied. "We'll protect you." The ragged group looked at one another, farmers, soldiers, engineers, teachers, all ready to stand against annihilation. Outside, the sky blazed orange where distant cities burned. Beneath that hellish glow, humanity steeled itself. It was the spark of resistance, born in a mountain workshop, fueled by desperation and courage. And as the first shattered stars fell, Juno Park and her unlikely comrades prepared to strike back. The war for Earth had begun. Astrid Fong sat hunched over the cracked workbench in the desert research bunker, her slender fingers tracing the intricate patterns etched into the obsidian black fragment. The piece of alien alloy glowed faintly under her headlamp, humming with a low resonance that made the air around it tremble. She'd spent 4 sleepless nights studying its contours, convinced it held the secret to sealing the sky rift. But every hypothesis led her deeper into frustration. Outside, the wind howled across the dunes, rattling the vent grates and stirring plumes of sand against the bunker's steel doors. Celine Vaughn, undiplomat turned reluctant courier, paced nearby, her tan boots scuffing the concrete floor. She checked her watch for the third time in as many minutes. "They promised reinforcements hours ago," she muttered, voice hollow with impatience. "Where are they?" Astrid didn't look up. "They got diverted," she said, voice tired. "They're dealing with another strike on the eastern fringe." She tapped the fragment against a portable scanner. The machine's screen flickered and hummed ominously. "If my calculations are right, this alloy resonates at the same frequency that holds the rift open." She rubbed her temples. "I've reverse-engineered half a dozen prototypes, and every test either fizzles out or detonates." Celine stopped pacing. She studied Astrid's drawn face. "You'll figure it out," she said, more to comfort herself than the physicist. "You always do." In the dim light, Celine's features were sharp, resolute. She had no patience for failure, not when Juno Park and Raphael Cruz were rallying survivors above. The fate of dozens hinged on their success. Suddenly, the bunker's comm panel beeped. Celine hurried over and tapped the screen. Static crackled, then Raphael's voice broke through. "Celine, Astrid, status report. Base is secure but running low on supplies. Enemy scouts were sighted a mile west. You need to move that device before they detect its signature." Astrid's heart lurched. Every second spent tinkering risked giving the invaders a beacon. She lifted the fragment. "We'll mount it on the transport. Adjust the power coil to compensate for desert heat. We need to keep it below critical threshold." She handed the piece to Celine. "Help me box this up." They worked in tense silence. Celine wrapped the fragment carefully in layers of insulating gel, then padded it with foam inside a reinforced crate. Astrid loaded the scanner and auxiliary tools. They secured the lid with heavy latches. Outside, the wind pounded the bunker walls like distant artillery. Moments later, through the observation window, they saw a convoy approaching, 6 dune buggies mounted with makeshift armor, driven by hardened volunteers. Juno was at the front, her dark hair pulled back, eyes scanning the horizon. Raphael followed in the second vehicle, carrying extra fuel and med kits. Celine opened the hatch. "We're ready," she called. Juno clambered down and eased into the bunker. "Quick," she said. "They're moving closer." The hum of alien patrol ships drifted overhead, a constant reminder of how little time they had. Astrid hefted the crate. It was lighter than she expected, but she knew the weight of its importance. "The transport's ready," she said. They hurried through the narrow corridor to the garage bay, where Orion Ivanov was already calibrating the prototype power cell. He glanced up, eyebrows raised. "Assembled the core yet?" Astrid nodded. "All set. But the desert heat might destabilize it. Keep an eye on the thermal monitor." She and Celine loaded the crate into the back of the lead buggy. Orion slid the power cell into its mount and sealed the module. Sparks flickered, then steadied to a quiet glow. Juno climbed behind the wheel. She glanced back. "Ready?" Astrid and Celine exchanged determined looks. "Ready," Celine replied. They climbed aboard, engines roared, and the convoy burst into the swirling sandstorm. The dune buggies kicked up rooster tails of sand as they raced across the desert. Astrid monitored the scanner readings via her wrist console. Every now and then the crate's markers flickered red, warning of rising temperatures. She tapped commands into the module. "Adjust coil vent to 95%. If that doesn't hold, I'll have to throttle back the resonance." Orion leaned across, tightening a valve. "Done. Keep me posted." Farther ahead, jagged rock formations loomed. Their destination lay beyond those spires, a hidden canyon with an abandoned alien communications array Juno had discovered weeks earlier. If Astrid could retrofit the array as an emission projector, they could send a focused pulse into the rift, forcing it closed. "We're nearing the canyon mouth," Juno warned over the comms. The convoy slowed as they approached a narrow gap between towering cliffs. The wind rattled the buggies as they threaded through the passage. Astrid felt her pulse quicken. I'm calibrating the projector frequency now, she said. We'll match it to the rift's harmonic signature. If all goes well, the rift will resonate back on itself and collapse. Celine gripped the crate. And if it doesn't, she whispered. Astrid met her gaze in the side mirror. Then we die trying, no hint of doubt in her voice. The convoy spilled into a wide cavern where the rusted towers of the old array stood like skeletal sentinels. Wires hung loose, panels torn open. Orion hopped out, toolkit in hand. Give me 2 minutes, he sprinted toward the nearest tower, began rewiring the main antenna. Astrid crouched at a portable terminal and keyed in sequence commands. Screens flickered to life, showing waveforms and resonance curves. She adjusted the amplitude sliders, aligning every node. I'm feeding 50,000 MHz into the main coil. Stand by for coupling, a low hum rose, vibrating the cavern floor. Celine scanned the sky through the open roof. Distant shapes glinted in the sunlight. We've got company, she said, urgency lacing her tone. 2 patrol ships circling, she drew her sidearm, ready to defend the team. Astrid's fingers flew over the controls. Locking frequency, coupling achieved, charging emitter. She took a breath. Juno, get us back into cover. Juno killed the engines, and the convoy ducked behind boulders. Shells of plasma fire kicked up dust where the patrol ships probed. Now, Astrid hissed. Orion hit the activation switch on the transmitter. The array's main dish swung into position, its surface crackling with energy as the fragment's power module fed the resonance coils. The humming intensified, vibrating through the steel bones of the array. Far above, the sky rift shimmered, edges flickering like a wound. The air around it pulsed in response. The invaders in their patrol ships jolted as if struck by an invisible force. One vessel swayed, systems glitching. Then the rift quivered, contours rippling. Astrid's console flashed red alarms. Frequency bleed, reading spiking, she tried damping the resonance. Celine grabbed her arm. Too late, she shouted. A thunderous pulse erupted from the dish, a wave of rippling light that shot skyward. The rift screamed outward, then collapsed in on itself like a dying star. Shards of shimmering energy cascaded and vanished. For a heartbeat, the sky above the array was empty, then sealed, no tear, no black crack, only the endless blue. Silence. The patrol ships hovered, disoriented. Then, one by one, they accelerated away, disappearing beyond the horizon. In the cavern, the team exhaled as one. Astrid sank to her knees, head bowed. The crate beside her vibrated softly, the fragment's glow faded to stillness. We did it, she whispered, voice trembling. Juno knelt beside her and placed a hand on her shoulder. You saved us all, she said. Orion wiped sweat from his brow. That was close, he managed. Celine looked skyward, tears streaking her dusty face. We actually did it, she turned to Astrid. You gave humanity a fighting chance. Astrid raised her head, eyes bright with relief and exhaustion. This is only part 1, she said softly. The rift is closed, but they'll be back. She stood and brushed dust from her coat. We've shown them we can strike back. Now we need to unite every city, every survivor, before the next wave arrives. They gathered their gear and filed into the buggies. As they drove back through the desert, the wind no longer carried the hum of alien ships. Behind them, the canyon lay quiet, the old array silent at last. In that moment, among the shifting sands, they carried more than hope. They carried proof that defiance could turn the tide, and that Earth would not yield without a fight. Juno Park's convoy crept along the jagged dunes of the Terra Desert, engines coughing sand and sparks. Astrid Fang's data drives were locked in a reinforced crate at the center of the lead transport, its hull scarred from previous skirmishes. Celine Vaughn scanned the horizon through night vision goggles, her grip steady on the wheel. Raphael Cruz rode shotgun, scanning the dark with a handheld LiDAR pulse. Orion Ivanov trailed behind them on an all-terrain bike, ready to flank with his makeshift flamethrower. They had one objective: reach the old Sun Tower at Terra Alpha, repurpose its solar array to power the prototype resonator weapon. Every second counted. Vanguard alien forces under Zarek Corps had encircled the region, sealing off supply routes and hunting resistance cells. Dust devils whispered across the dunes as the moon dipped behind rolling peaks. Sudden staccato bursts of emerald fire lit the sky, alien sentinels patrolling overhead. Raphael ducked as a beam seared the sand 3 meters from their transport. "They're watching," he hissed. Juno nodded, signaling Orion to circle right. With a sharp turn, the convoy slipped into a narrow canyon flanked by towering sandstone walls. Celine tapped the crate's biometric lock. "Astrid, you good?" Astrid's voice crackled over the comms. "I'm syncing the network interface. If we lose power, this thing scrambles the coordinates of the breach." They edged forward, boots crunching on grit, each step closer to the tower trembling with tension. The Sun Tower loomed at the canyon's end, a skeletal framework crowned by shattered mirrors. Threading through collapsed girders, they found the solar generator's control node. Celine and Astrid worked in tandem, one calibrating the alien-powered inverters, the other integrating the drive schematics into the tower's circuits. Raphael and Orion stood guard, weapons raised against the encroaching alien horde. Outside, the ground trembled as Vanguard drones circled, their underbellies glowing with threatening pulses. Juno tapped a makeshift detonator to seal the tower's access hatch. "We've got 5 minutes," she warned. Astrid's fingers flew over the interface. Power levels spiking. Now, a deep hum rose from the reflector panels, siphoning every ray of moonlight into crackling arcs of green-blue energy. Suddenly, the prototype resonator's coil chamber groaned under the influx. Lights flickered, wiring sparked. "It's unstable," Astrid shouted, stepping back. Celine grabbed her arm. "Finish the link or we lose everything." Juno pivoted, ripping coolant lines from her belt. She fed them to the pressure valves, venting excess energy into makeshift capacitors. A blinding pulse rattled the canyon as the device thundered to life. But the canyon walls fractured, sending debris raining down. Orion fired his flamethrower at advancing alien infantry, halting their charge in a hiss of steam and flame. Raphael lobbed a sonic grenade that shattered the ground, throwing the invaders off balance. In the chaos, the resonator unleashed a shockwave that flattened a nearby sand dune, but at the cost of critical feedback loops. Alarms boomed as the coils overheated. The resonator bucked like a wounded beast, its power readings oscillating wildly. Astrid's voice quavered, "If we don't stabilize the flux, we'll tear a hole in reality instead of sealing one." Juno's jaw clenched. "Give me the override code," she barked, pulling a data pad from her pocket. Fingers shaking, she input sequence after sequence. The device's hum grew steadier, resonance aligning to Astrid's calculations. But above the canyon rim, a black shadow detached from the night sky, the personal cruiser of Zarek Corps. The Vanguard commander surveyed the scene through a crystalline viewport, his crimson eyes narrowing. Zarek Corps deployed a wave of biogliders, bat-like creatures engineered to disrupt electrical fields. They swooped into the canyon, their claws scraping against metal and sparks showering the ground. Celine raised her rifle, firing a burst of plasma that disintegrated one beast mid-flight. Orion's flamethrower incinerated another as it swooped too low. "They know exactly what we're doing," Raphael panted. "They're targeting the resonator," Juno yelled over the cacophony. "We quit now, we're nothing but sitting ducks." "We push through." Astrid's eyes widened. "The device is aligning. Give it 30 seconds, every soldier braced as the canyon reverberated with alien shrieks and sonic booms. At the crucial moment, Astrid initiated the final protocol. The resonator emitted a high-pitched keening that rippled through the air. The coils glowed white-hot, then dimmed to a soft violet. The tremor eased, energy funneled upward, slicing a slender beam toward the sky. Juno and Raphael fired suppressive shots at Zarek Corps' gliders, carving a path for the beam to reach its mark. Orion leapt atop a broken generator to provide cover fire. The beam struck the overhanging ridge, cutting a shimmering cord of energy that pulsed with alien frequencies. The sky beyond the ridge rippled as if trembling under immense weight. With a final, resonant note, the beam collapsed inward. The sky tore briefly with violet light, then sealed. No jagged breach remained, only the desert moon shone overhead. In the stunned silence, the alien horde halted. Zarek Kor's cruiser emitted a serried alarm, then vanished into the darkness as swiftly as it had appeared. The biogliders retreated, sweeping back across the dunes. Soldiers lowered their weapons, breathing ragged but triumphant. Celine dropped to her knees, tears streaking her dust-coated face. "We did it," she whispered. Astrid slumped against a shattered mirror, voice hoarse, "The rift, it's closed." Juno climbed onto the resonator's frame, surveying the canyon now littered with spent shell casings and smoking debris. Orion dropped beside her, exhaustion and relief etched on his face. Raphael placed a hand on Juno's shoulder. "They won't expect us to strike again so soon," he said. "But we showed them we can fight on their terms." Astrid carefully unhooked the data drives. "This is the proof we need," she said softly. "Every frontline cell will know, Earth will not be conquered." As dawn painted the horizon in pale gold, the team gathered around the resonator's core. Celine keyed a transmission, coordinates of the sealed breach, schematics of the resonator, and a rallying call to every survivor network still standing. To all resistance cells, her message crackled across encrypted channels: "Today, we sealed the sky, but the war is far from over. Stand and prepare. This is our moment." The desert wind carried her words across the dunes, a promise of defiance echoing beneath the newly healed sky. And somewhere beyond the stars, the invaders knew humanity had learned to fight, and would not yield. Juno Park led the convoy through the shattered outskirts of Seoul, headlights cutting through the choking haze of dust and ash. Skyscrapers once gleaming with neon ads now stood as hollow husks, their windows gaping like broken teeth. The team navigated down cracked avenues, past overturned buses and silent crowds huddled in doorways. Above them, the sky yawned empty where the rift had once loomed, and though it was closed, the threat still hung in every shadow. "We're heading for the old transit tunnels beneath Yongsan," Juno said, voice low over the comm. Astrid phone clutched the resonator prototype strapped in the trailer, her face pale beneath the flickering cab light. Celine Vaughn rode beside her, scanning for patrol drones. Orion Ivanov and Raphael Cruz brought up the rear, rifles at the ready, boots thudding on the metal grates of the makeshift flatbed. They turned down a side street where the pavement had collapsed into a gaping sinkhole. Raphael edged the truck forward and dropped a ramp of steel girders they'd scavenged from a collapsed mall. The trailer rattled as it descended into the darkness. Juno killed the engine, silence swallowed them. Astrid flicked a lantern on, revealing rusty tracks disappearing into the subterranean gloom. "This way," she whispered. The tunnel walls bore layers of graffiti from decades of commuters, now defaced with crude warnings scrawled by resistance fighters. "Keep moving," Orion urged, leading the way with a rifle-mounted light. The group marched single file, the resonator's hum muted by concrete. Every distant drip of water, every scuff of boots, felt amplified in the cavernous void. Celine's breath fogged in the stale air. "How far?" she murmured. Astrid consulted her wrist console. 2 clicks to base camp. The transit tunnels branched like a spider's web under the city. Juno paused at a junction plastered with celluloid posters of pop idols from a bygone era. She touched a hidden latch, a section of wall swung inward to reveal a guarded checkpoint. Armed volunteers in battered gear raised submachine guns but relaxed at Juno's token. "We've got permission," she said. The guard stepped aside, revealing a dimly lit hall filled with makeshift barracks, supply crates, and command tables. At the far end, a massive steel door marked Sector Delta stood ajar. Inside, engineers and medics worked under bare bulbs. A diesel generator rumbled, powering communication arrays. Astrid guided them to a clearing where the resonator sat on a reinforced platform. Cables snaked into junction boxes set into the tunnel floor. "We need to recalibrate the emitter," she said, voice echoing. "The desert test used ambient solar power. Here, we'll tap grid remnants, unstable, but more controllable." Orion secured the platform's legs. Juno and Selene ferried tool crates. Raphael patrolled the perimeter. Astrid connected the prototype's feedback loop to a borrowed supercomputer salvaged from a nearby server farm. Lines of code scrolled across a jury-rigged monitor, waveform analyses, harmonic resonance graphs, thermal projections. "We'll adjust the pulse sequence to match the city's electromagnetic signature," she explained. "The denser infrastructure here will amplify the beam, but also risk overload." She rubbed her temples. "We need precise modulation." Above ground, phantom wails drifted through ventilation shafts, echoes of souls fallen. Volunteers whispered of ghosts roaming the tunnels, deranged civilians turned feral, or worse, alien biocreatures mutated by the rift's energies. A veteran named Min Jun approached, face lined with soot. "We had an incident last night," he said. "They call her the Lantern Girl, found wandering with a broken lantern, whispering in an alien tongue before she attacked our guards." He shuddered. "Be careful." Juno nodded. "We'll secure the outer galleries," she motioned to Raphael and Orion. Together they set out with sidearms and flashlights, descending deeper into the labyrinth. Selene stayed to assist Astrid, passing her spanners and data drives. "We could route power through the metro rails," Selene suggested, pointing to old schematics. "Even at half capacity, it'll smooth the fluctuations." Astrid typed commands. The monitor's waveform peaked, then flattened. "That should compensate," she said. Now to synchronize the emitter, Selene held a coil module steady as Astrid clipped in a phase inverter. A soft hum grew, pulsing in time with Astrid's measurement readouts. "Frequency lock achieved," she announced. "Ready to test." Above, Juno and her team encountered the first ghost, half-shrouded figure at the end of a dead-end tunnel, holding a broken lantern. Layers of dust coated her clothes, eyes glazed. Juno raised her rifle, but the girl spoke in a high, broken voice, "They're coming back, don't let them," then lunged, teeth bared, into a distorted screech. Orion blasted a warning shot across the chamber. The ghost recoiled, hissing, then fled down a side passage. Raphael exhaled. "Biotech mutation," he said grimly. "We're up against more than ships." They set traps, improvised tripwire nets, electrified panels wired to the resonator's control. Juno marked safe paths for the volunteers. Orion collected samples of the ghost's footprints, strange acidic residue that ate at concrete. "These creatures will target our power conduits," he warned. "If they disrupt the emitter, we're exposed." Back at Sector Delta, Astrid initiated the trial cycle. Lights dimmed as the generator spat sparks under the new load. Screens flickered. "Emitter warming to 20%, she reported. Selene watched the thermal gauges climb. "We need to keep it under 50, she said. "Anything above and the tunnels could collapse." She glanced at the map. "If we go critical, we risk the entire base." Astrid nodded, fingers poised. On my mark, outside, a distant rumble sounded, thousands of footsteps, like an approaching avalanche. Selene's eyes widened. "Zarek Corps' ground troops," she said. "They found us." Alarms blared as volunteers manned makeshift barricades. Juno's voice crackled over comm, "We're under attack on Gallery 4, she barked coordinates. "Engage at will." Astrid cut her eyes from the monitor. "I need 10 seconds to lock the pulse." Selene grabbed her arm. 5 seconds, she cried. Distant impacts rattled the platform. Raphael's voice, calm but firm, "Hold them off, we can't lose this." Astrid's index finger hovered over the activation button. "Now," she shouted. With a keening roar, the emitter discharged a concentrated beam of resonant energy that surged through the tunnel network. Steel supports vibrated, concrete cracked, and a shockwave swept outward. The invading soldiers froze, convulsing under the pulse. Their weapons sparked, shields collapsed. Ghostly shapes recoiled, then dissolved into dust as the wave purged residual alien biomatter. Silence fell, broken only by the generator's sputter. Volunteers emerged from barricades, blinking in the sudden calm. Juno reported back, enemy forces incapacitated for 2 minutes, and withdrawing, Orion added, ghosts gone too. The corridors are clear. Astrid exhaled, collapsing to one knee. We've purged their influence, she whispered. Celine embraced her, tears of relief streaking her cheeks. You saved this base, she said. Juno descended to Sector Delta, helmet light illuminating her determined face. We've got civilians moving in, she said. Use the emitter to clear the rest of the tunnels. Then we push surface cells to reclaim the city. Astrid stood, voice firm. We'll adapt this to every underground network. Let the tunnels become our weapon. She looked at Juno, Celine, Raphael, and Orion in turn. Earth's defiance won't end in the skies, Sol's ghosts are part of our fight now. As dawn crept into the ventilation shafts, the team gathered by the resonator, flanked by renewed volunteers. The city above still smoldered, but beneath its broken streets, hope resonated. And somewhere beyond the stars, the invaders learned that humanity's spirit could not be ghosted, or broken, beneath their feet. The world held its breath as the united convoy rumbled toward the former United Nations compound, now the Global Resistance's headquarters. Juno Park sat in the lead transport beside Astrid Fong, whose pale fingers trembled over a tablet displaying the final weapon schematics. Celine Vaughn manned the radio uplink, ready to broadcast Earth's warning across the void. Orion Ivanov and Raphael Cruz flanked the column on armored transports, their eyes scanning the darkening sky for signs of alien scouts. Behind them trailed dozens of volunteer vehicles bearing civilians who had reclaimed long-abandoned military hardware, farmers turned gunners, engineers turned tacticians, students turned medics. All driven by the same conviction, this was humanity's stand. As they crested a low ridge, the compound's ruined facade came into view, its battered flagpole draped with patchwork banners sewn from torn national flags. Within its walls, a hastily erected command center buzzed with activity. Leaders from every continent waved clenched fists and exchanged reports. A low hum of anticipation filled the air. Juno guided the convoy through a breach in the perimeter wall, gravel crunching under treads. Volunteers leaped down, unloading crates of power cells and field rations. Astrid and Celine hurried toward the central comm dome, trailing cables that glowed with alien alloy luminescence. Inside the dome, the main emitter stood towering and silent. Its coils, grafted from the array at Terra Alpha and the Sol tunnels, pulsed faintly in anticipation. Astrid keyed in the final coordinates, the exact harmonic signature of the rift they'd closed twice before. Above the dome's viewport, Celine raised her weapon to guard the door. Once this goes live, she said softly, there's no turning back. Astrid nodded, gaze steady. It's now or never. If they launch one more strike, we'll erase their invasion fleet in one shot. Outside, Raphael radioed to Juno, enemy patrols have been sighted at 20 clicks. They're probing our perimeter. Juno's voice crackled back, hold position. We're about to send a message they won't ignore. Tall floodlights cast long shadows across the courtyard as volunteers formed ranks. Unmarked drones buzzed overhead, dispersing leaflets printed with unity slogans, Earth United, Earth Strong. Celine's fingers danced over the comm panel. Her voice, firm and resonant, echoed through the dome speakers. Attention all invader forces, she broadcast in their guttural tongue, pieced together from captured transmissions. This is Earth. We've survived your assaults. We've reclaimed our cities, our deserts, our mountain passes. Enough blood has been spilt. Hear our ultimatum, one more attack on our world, and we will unleash a weapon of such power it will erase your civilization from the stars. Withdraw now, or face total annihilation. Silence followed her words, broken only by the whir of backup generators. Outside, the resistance held its breath. Far above, satellite relays captured the message, beaming it into deep space. The emptiness of the night sky seemed to settle over them, vast and inscrutable. Then, without warning, the lights in the viewport flickered as a distant flash of energy streaked across the horizon, an alien scout ship probing the compound's defenses. Volunteers tensed, ready to fire, but the ship merely coasted by, its hull decals battered and glowing with electronics damage. "They heard us," Astrid said, voice barely a whisper. Celine exhaled. "And they're thinking." Juno stepped into the dome, helmet tucked under her arm. She laid a hand on Astrid's shoulder. "You gave us this chance," she said. "Now we hold it." Outside the compound, Orion coordinated the land defenses. Trenches bristled with mounted plasma turrets jury-rigged from civilian generators. Engineers had positioned the prototype resonator cannon atop a reinforced platform, aimed at the sky. Solenoids and superconducting coils glowed under protective shielding. Raphael watched through binoculars as the scout ship disappeared beyond the horizon. "They're pulling back," he reported. Multiple signatures retreating toward the rift site. Across global networks, eyes turned upward. In Tokyo, survivors cheered as alien cruisers blinked out of sight. In Paris, resistance cells dismantled barricades, welcoming home fleeing civilians. In Sydney, families embraced beneath the red moon. The world exhaled collectively, but none dared to declare victory. The message was clear, this was only a reprieve. Inside the command dome, Celine remained at the comms, monitoring alien channels. Static crackled, then an unfamiliar voice filtered through. The Commander General's tone was cold, distant. "We acknowledge your warning, Earth," it said. "We withdraw, for now. We will return, stronger and wiser. Prepare your defenses." The transmission ended. Celine's hand hovered over the console. "They accepted," she said. "They're gone." Astrid allowed herself a weary smile. "We bought time," she said. "Time to rebuild, time to unite." Juno looked out the viewport at the empty sky, heart pounding. "They'll be back," she said. "But now they know we're ready." Over the next week, Earth transformed. The compound became a hub for international coordination. Rescue missions delivered food and medicine to still struggling cities. Engineers reverse-engineered the resonator's design, sharing blueprints with every surviving nation. Orphan children learned in underground schools. Farmers replanted fields scorched by earlier assaults. Monuments rose in memory of the fallen, markers of loss, but also of defiance. One evening, as the sun bled crimson across the horizon, Juno, Astrid, Celine, Orion, and Raphael gathered atop the compound's highest tower. The wind carried echoes of distant waves. Astrid adjusted her goggles, gazing toward the healed sky. "We've done the impossible," she said softly. "We faced extinction and stood tall." Orion rested a hand on her shoulder. "We're not perfect," he replied. "But we learned to fight as one." Celine walked to the edge, voice resolute. "The invaders will remember this day, the day Earth declared its spirit unbreakable." Juno stepped forward, the wind tugging at her coat. "They challenged us," she said, "but we answered. Earth's ultimatum stands, attack again, and we will erase your civilization. May that warning echo across the stars until they dare not return." Raphael raised his rifle in salute. "To Earth," he said. "And to defiance," the others echoed the salute. Below, lights turned on across the compound, lanterns, generators, fires set for celebration. Though the world bore scars, hope shone brighter. And somewhere, beyond the veil of space, the invaders recalculated their strategy. Earth's message had been received, its power undeniable. The cosmos had witnessed the planet's unity and resolve. For now, Earth slept beneath the empty sky, vigilant, prepared, and unbowed.